Bonjour, comment ça va? Okay. Wow, this room is big. I think you're right. It is the biggest women's conference ever. Let's do that every year. Say that every year. Biggest women's conference ever. So thank you, sisters. Thank you for all you do and all that you will do and all that you bring to our union. Thank you for your activism and your determination, and most of all, your sisterhood. Many of you probably know how I feel about women's conferences and the sisterhood. As I said last night to one of our sisters, they've always been food for my soul, and perhaps food for your soul too. A place where feminism and activism have space and air and lots of room to take root and to flourish. There is, and this is, our space to acknowledge the sexism, the racism, the harassment, the violence, the indignity, the barriers, and the inequality so many women still face. It's our space to plan and organize around how we change that. But it's also the space where we celebrate. Celebrate each other. Celebrate our victories, our courage, our persistence, our activism, our joy, our friendships, where we celebrate this thing we call Unifor sisterhood. I've been really fortunate in my trade union life to have had women who've encouraged, inspired, broken down barriers, defied humiliating acts of sexism with sheer guts and determination, and who did it all not for themselves, but for the very purpose of creating a better union, a better world for all women and girls, and for all humanity. Their activism was not about personal ambition or advancement, but rather because of the belief that equality was worth fighting for, and the union was the place where we had the best shot of achieving it, despite barriers even within our own union. And I know some of you still place and face barriers in your own local unions. We're all here today because of these sisters who came before us. Fierce, tough trade union women who made possible for so many of us to not just be in this room, but to do the work that we do. Because they knew when, as Sister Peggy Nash would say, to hold their elbows out. They helped make it possible for a smart, kick-ass sister to lead Local 1, the Marine Workers Federation, a shipyard filled with mostly brothers, as you heard last night, although it is changing. Yes. Shannon Sampson recently became the first sister elected president of her local in its 80-year history. And when the Local 1 sisters go back home, they'll tell her she just got a standing ovation for not even being in the room. The sisters who came before us helped make it possible for women to sit on bargaining committees in auto plants, to negotiate pay equity into collective agreements, to stand up to harassment. They showed us that when we organize, when we come together, we can change things for the better. And yes, their years of persistence and resistance helped make it possible for the first woman to be elected to the largest private sector union in Canada. But we're still counting. We're still counting firsts. We're still counting the difference in pay between women and men. We're still counting the very real barriers women face in our society and in our workplaces. We're still counting legislation that disempowers women workers, sexist legislation like Bill 124 here in Ontario. We're still counting the number of women who are murdered every year at the hands of their partner or ex-partner. We're still counting the number of women murdered because they were Indigenous. Because they were Indigenous. We're still counting the daily barrage of online harassment and violence faced by women, including women journalists and media workers. And if you're a woman of color, it's so much worse. We're still counting the additional load carried by our Indigenous sisters, by our Black sisters, our sisters of color, our sisters with disabilities, our LGBTQ2S sisters, by younger women. We're still counting the trans women who face compounded challenges in gaining safe, secure, and decent employment. 13 years ago, I gave a speech on this stage with this same theme. We're still counting. And while we count all the things that contribute to our continued inequality, we must also count what we have achieved, the many victories we have had, the literal millions of dollars we have won for members under recent pay equity struggles. Teresa and Mina and Lori are just some of the Unifor staff women fighting for justice for our sisters at the bargaining table and beyond. We can count the incredible support and solidarity for our members in locals and units made up in large part of women who are taking militant positions to fight for fair wages and winning at HBC, at GDI. We can and we must take strength from today's struggles, sisters, because they will be tomorrow's victories. It took the women of Canada, as you heard last night, 50-something years to win childcare, and we're still fighting to make sure all women and families benefit. But we never, ever gave up. It took decades to get pay equity in the federal jurisdiction, but we never, ever gave up. It took a global pandemic to get paid sick days in some jurisdictions in Canada, but we never relented, and we continue to fight. It took a historic round of auto bargaining to create racial justice advocates, patterned after our globally recognized Women's Advocate Program. Because when we take advantage of the spaces and places where we have influence, we can change things for the better. We have more women in unions today than we did 13 years ago. We have more women in positions of leadership in our union and in society than we did 13 years ago. We have an Indigenous liaison in our union in Gina Smoke, who is changing Unifor with every action she takes. We have women local presidents, including many in this room. We have women making a difference at every single level of our union. Yes, we are still counting, but that doesn't mean we give up the fight. Indeed, it means the very opposite of that. It means we must find ways to inspire each other, to support each other, and to come together collectively in our union to organize and to win. I see you. I see your challenges in your workplace and in your local unions. Some of you happen to share those challenges with me. Keep doing that. But don't allow anyone to diminish what you bring. Don't allow the special leadership skills you have, the powerful activism you do, the incredible strength you bring to our union to ever be minimized. I believe in you, every single one of you, in what you're capable of when you come together. I see the courage that you display every day, And I hope you know that every time you push back, every time you reach back and bring another sister along, you create more space, because we want all the sisters to have space. We have so much to do. After all, full equality remains unrealized. As trade unionists, we know that every generation must defend what was won, just as every generation must take up the challenge to push for new progress and to continue to organize. Just this weekend, the Conservative Party of Canada elected what I think is fair to say is an enemy to women and to workers everywhere. Pierre Poilievre is a known commodity in our world. He has been a member of Parliament since the Harper era. Some of you might be too young in this room to even remember that guy. And he's always articulated positions that push the CPC further to the right. He has championed anti-worker laws, laws that would weaken unions, weaken worker power, and weaken our chances of achieving equality. His campaign to become the leader of the Conservative Party was predicated on feeding the toxic far-right movement that organized the convoys in Ottawa and beyond. I can tell you this, Poilievre is a real threat to democracy. He's a threat to the progress we have achieved in this country as working people, and he's a threat to the progress that is required in the lives of women and workers everywhere. And we will respond to those threats. We will respond because we're going to organize like never before. And we will not have a choice but to do that. But I do know this because I've seen it before. We can win. We can win against his dangerous rhetoric and even more dangerous plans for our country. We all know we're in very challenging times at the moment. Armin will probably speak a little bit about this. Staggering corporate profits, growing inequality, crushing monetary policy from the Bank of Canada, a pandemic that continues to steal lives around the world, a climate crisis, and of course, high inflation. But oddly, it's these very moments of great challenge when transformation can happen, when real change can be built. The pandemic was such a moment, and now look at what's happening. Workers are fighting back everywhere. They are organizing themselves into unions everywhere. And they, like the 70 cleaners at Durham College in Oshawa, members of Local 222, who this weekend ratified a historic collective agreement after taking unprecedented strike action, are making a difference in their own lives. Those sisters were making $16.05 an hour. Yeah. Working nights, cleaning the schools, making sure it was safe, all through the pandemic. And they still had to go on strike to get justice and respect. But they got it. They got it. We need to all recognize the moment we have as trade unionists right now. In many ways, it's the kind of moment we spend our entire trade union lives building for. A moment when we can truly build worker power by organizing for the better world that we all know is possible. When capitalism and central bankers have failed workers so spectacularly that they indeed are now creating the winning conditions for us to grow and organize as a union. We cannot allow corporations and governments to use the pandemic and the after effects of this pandemic to roll back the clock and dismantle the good work we have done over generations at union building and at collective bargaining. And unions currently are the only force standing in the way of this. And for us, as a workers' movement, we either lead that fight for a better world and organize for it, or find ourselves irrelevant by a growing militant workforce. This is no time for complacency. It is only time to organize. Sisters, we have battles because our job as trade unionists and as trade union women is to confront power on the daily. That is what we do. And it will be up to us on the daily to build our power. And when we do, that's when we win. And here is one way we might think about doing this. I'm going to speak to our sisters in healthcare right now, who've lived under Bill 121 for a number of years. It's a nasty, anti-union piece of legislation that impacts mostly women workers. It prevents fair and free collective bargaining by capping the wages we as unions can negotiate. We also believe, and will be proven in the courts at some point, that it's unconstitutional. Last night, Ursula, where are you, Ursula? Put your hand up, there she is, from Local 598 came to me with a really great idea. An idea for an action for January 24th, 2023. That would be the first month and the 24th day. Hence, Ursula, Bill 124. A day when those impacted by this legislation might consider to refuse to work. Are you with me, sisters? Okay, Ursula, see what you've started there. It's just been over a month since I was elected national president at our convention, and I know many of you were there. Of course, this has brought its share of operational tasks as the official transition is occurring and still ongoing, and it requires a lot of thought and a lot of time to get it right. But the work of the last month will equip the leadership team to move forward on all the work that our union will be doing this fall and into the future. And I want to take a few moments here to recognize Jen Murray, our newly elected Atlantic Regional Director. I think she's in the room, or she's on a call. And Noreen Risby, our newly elected Ontario Regional Director. And we've made some new appointments, as you heard last night, in the senior leadership team of our union. A number of women, Roxanne, Sari, and Nikki, who, as you heard, yes. And I want to thank all of them for taking on this additional work, because they don't get much time off when they go into these roles, I tell you that. Not that I'm a hard taskmaster or anything. Right, Roxanne? Our union is truly stronger because of what women bring to it. Our union is stronger because of all of you, every single one of you, because of your activism. One of the biggest challenges we have right now, and that goes not just for me, but for all of us, it's understanding that change needs work. It's too often easy It's too often easy after a historical moment like this to slide into old habits. In my decisions so far as president, I've always asked myself two questions. What is in the best interests of our members, and how do we make sure this contributes to the positive development of our union? I encourage you all to do the same as you chart a path for your work and for your trade unionism, on gender justice, on racial justice, on all of the work that we do. What can we do differently? How can the voice of our national president deliver our message differently? Where can we win together? I've been thinking a lot about leadership lately, for obvious reasons. That's a nice phone ring. And I want to share a little story with you, and I hope I can get through it, because every time I read her note, I find it a bit challenging. It's a story about a sister whose name happens to be Julie, and not my dear friend Julie White over here, who I'm thrilled was able to join us this week. It was several months ago at a conference, and I just happened to sit next to her at her table. She smiled shyly at me and said, "I don't know if you remember this, but you sat next to me many years ago at my table at a women's conference." And I said, "I think I might remember this." And it had been a tough few days. There were a lot of tough days. And I'm sure, as Kim Conway said to me last night, I'm wearing it on my face. Well, I was wearing it on my face, Kim. And I think she sensed that, so we made a kind of sisterhood connection. You're all making them this week, right? You know what it is. So I gave my speech, I sat back down, and she gave me a hug and a little note before I left. It said, "Thank you, Lana. I appreciate the work you do for us. You are an inspiration to me, and as a woman, I wish you the best in your next vision. I believe in you. I'm not that important, but I believe in you." It kind of broke my heart. Yeah. Because Julie is important. We all know that. She is valuable, and none of us do this work alone. The only way we win is by doing it together and building collective power. That is the beauty of our union. It's about all of us together. Sisters, I want to thank you. I felt the support of so many of you. I felt your love across the miles and the kilometers. See how old I am? I'm still not using the correct term. I felt your sisterhood, and I felt that one thing that kept me going. You believed in what was possible. Everything is possible when you organize for it. I know so many of you, because you wrote me notes, felt this was our chance. And please understand this one thing. This victory was not mine. It was ours. It belongs to you. To the sisters of our union, to the members, to the activists, to the believers, to all those who came before and stared down the bullying, the sexism, the everything, to all those still doing that. And now we build. It won't be easy, but nothing worth fighting for ever is. There will be those waiting for us to fall, those who will be critical of everything we do, every decision, every move. But their cynicism won't stop us. We won't let it. There is so much to be done, and we have so much to do. Workers are depending on us. The world needs hope and optimism. It needs the kind of change that we as trade union women can fight for, the kind of change that we as trade union women can organize for. gender, indigenous, and racial justice. And make no mistake, we will not stop. We will not stop organizing, demanding, fighting, and yes, taking our goddamn space. Because none of this was given, and none of it ever will be. We are going to fight to repeal Bill 124. We are going to fight for reproductive choice for all. We are going to fight so that the women and children from Indigenous communities see justice in their lifetime. We are going to fight for safer workplaces for women, trans and non-binary workers everywhere they work. And we are going to fight for the right to a good job for everyone, one that is safe, stable, and good paying. We are going to make our voices and our collective power heard from one end of the country to the other. And we are not going to give anything up. We are not going to give anything up. We will take on these fights because we believe. We believe in something bigger than ourselves. This union, the sisterhood, and equality for all. We believe a different world is possible. And yes, on a quiet day, we can hear her breathing. We believe we can change the conditions of work, and when we do, we change the conditions of the world. We believe that our collective actions can build something incredibly different, and we can, through our trade unionism, our activism, advance equality, dismantle the patriarchy, defeat racism. It's all possible. Believe in yourselves, sisters, because I do. Believe in what's possible, because I do. And know this, I may be the first woman president of Unifor, but I will not be the last. Sisterhood and solidarity.